So we had a call at our office the other day from a prospective owner client who was thinking of hiring us as his property manager, and he asked us this question. He said, now, when someone applies to rent my home, I want to make sure that I make the final selection to approve or decline that tenant. And that comes up very often. It comes up with prospective owner clients. It comes up a lot in our industry. It seems to be a point of conversation amongst property managers of, hey, if somebody applies, who should really approve them? Should the owner approve them, or should I, as the property manager, approve them? And you can make arguments in either way. So let me just offer a few thoughts and suggestions. Now you have two options here, right? Option one is the property owner should be the one to approve or make the final determination. So under this argument, the concept is you as the property manager, you pull their background, you pull their information, maybe you make a recommendation to the owner, you provide the information to the owner. The owner, though, is the one that's going to actually say yes, green light, or no, red light on that. In the thought process behind those property managers who like this, they say, well, you know what? It kind of like releases me from some liability, because that way if that tenant goes in and he's a bad tenant, or he doesn't pay rent, or he messes the place up, I can be like, hey, Mr. Owner, like, that was you chose them, it wasn't really on me. And I get that. There's some validity behind that concept. Now, option two would be that you or me, as the professional property manager, should be the one making that determination and approving or declining the tenant. So let me look at this. Let's look at this for a moment from just a different viewpoint. And let me ask you a couple questions, okay? This is what I asked subconsciously to that owner client who said, now I want to approve my tenants. Does that guy or gal, do they truly understand fair housing? Do they know how many protected status categories there are? Do you know how many protected status categories there are under the federal law? Think about it for a minute. Hold your fingers up to show me. No, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're right. Seven protected status. Now, if I asked you to name them all, gosh, I don't even know if I could name them all off the top of my head, but we have to be aware of that, don't we? So the answer is no. Your owner client, I just about guarantee, does not understand fair housing. But yet when you're processing a rental application, must you be aware of federal fair housing guidelines? You bet. Because the reality is this: if you give the owner two pretty much identical applications of two different parties applying, and it's the same credit score, it's the same income, everything's the same, but one is maybe just a husband and wife, just a couple, husband and wife, that's all it is, and he looks at it all and says, yeah, that's pretty good. Then he looks at the other one, identical credit score, identical income, identical everything, except this one over here has 3 kids. And he says, you know what, let's go with the one without kids. Now, he may not be intentionally trying to break fair housing rules, but did he? You bet he did. And is there anything wrong with that? Yes, that's illegal. Now, I get it. I mean, I've got 4 kids, okay? And kids tear up rental properties. If the government didn't require it, I wouldn't let my kids live in my house. But they says I'm stuck with raising them. So I have to let my kids come in there. So I get it. You don't want 4 kids or 3 kids in your rental property tearing it up. But the law says, no, you may not take that into consideration. So, okay, there's strike one. How about this? Does the property owner understand service animals? Ooh, that's a big one today, isn't it? Many of our tenants come to us with pets or service animals. And there's very clear, I shouldn't say very clear, there's very specific, no, not specific. There's very vague and general rules governing how we're supposed to approve, decline, process the request for service animals. Do your owner clients understand that? No, they don't at all. So when someone comes to them and says, hey, I want to apply, and oh, by the way, the owner says, well, you have a pet, you can't come in there. They say, no, that's not a pet, it's a service animal. And the owner's like, whatever, I see a dog. I don't take dogs. They don't understand the concept, the legal concept of a service animal, or how to process that request for a reasonable accommodation for an emotional support animal. Whether it's emotional support or service animals, I'm not making that distinction here. I'm just saying they don't understand the difference. So I don't want them. I don't want my owner client making that determination. Now, before I tell you about the third question, let me thank the sponsor for this video, Find Digs. We're talking about processing applicants into our system. FindDigs is a company that does that for you. Now you say, Mark, aren't all companies the same? They just pull credit score and background report. Many of them do, but not all of them. There are some companies, FindDigs, that takes it quite a bit deeper in looking especially at the applicant's income. They pull their bank statements and they verify the transactions match up with what they're saying. Like, it's stuff that's beyond me. I mean, it's been explained to me and it's cool, but it's crazy techie stuff. So they're verifying identity through pictures and driver's license, and it takes everything we do to a whole different level. So reach out, I'll put a link, reach out to the folks at FindDigs, tell them Mark sent you. They're good folks, I've had conversations with them. It's a fascinating technology. Check them out. All right, question number 3. Does the property owner understand disparate impact laws or disparate impact laws? Now you're scratching your head saying, what? They didn't say what? Pronounce that again, Mark. I know. Most of us don't understand these laws. These are the laws that are put in place by HUD a few years ago and went all the way to the Supreme Court, if you remember that. Like, this was a big deal a few years ago. And basically, it's like secondary discrimination. It's like having policies that the policies don't directly discriminate against a protected status, but the result of those policies do. Now, if you're still scratching your head, it's okay, don't worry. Your owners are really scratching your head because they don't get it. A lot of this pertains to like criminal backgrounds and criminal histories. So you can't say, hopefully you know this, you can't just say, if you've ever been arrested, I will not rent to people that have been arrested for crimes. You can't say that. What about convictions? No, you can't necessarily say that. You have to have specific parameters, and it's a whole equation. Ugh, messy stuff. But I promise you, your owners don't understand that. Now, all of that to say simply this. You as the professional, you as the licensee, you as the professional property manager, you cannot assign or delegate away your legal obligations under the law. See, if you let your owner approve or decline tenants, and that tenant thinks that, you know what, I think he declined me because I'm whatever, fill in the blank, whatever protected status you want. And they either pick up their cell phone or they go on the app and they make a complaint to HUD. Who's HUD going to call? The owner or you? HUD's not as concerned about the owner. They'll get to them eventually, but they're coming to you because you are the professional property manager. If you're in a state that requires a license, you are a licensee. You are the one that's going to get left holding the bag, even if your owner made the decision. If you try to point back and be like, well, the owner's the one that said they were declined because they have 4 kids, HUD's going to be like, okay, yeah, we'll talk to them later. But I'm going to deal with you right now. Trust me, my friends, you do not want to be in that position. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you need to change your policy, change it. But put your policies in place in such a way that you and only you approve or decline applicants. So let me tell you how my story ended with my owner who said, hey, I want to approve my tenants. I said, no, actually, we do that on your behalf, Mr. Owner. That's what you pay us for. We've processed thousands of of applicants. We've got a process for them. We've got a system for it. I explained the whole thing. I knew I wasn't going to work with this guy. He said, you know what? I own rental property throughout the United States. You are the first person I've talked to who's telling me I can't approve my own applicants. I can't believe that. Every other company that works for me, they let me approve the tenants. You don't. I can't believe it. And I said, Mr. Owner Client, on behalf of those other property management companies, let me apologize because they are doing you a terrible disservice. He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, let me just ask you one question. I'll tell you what, if you can answer this question, sir, I will change my whole policy. I'll let you approve or decline every one of the tenants. If you can just answer me one question. He's like, all right, what is it? I said, how many federally protected status levels, classifications are there per HUD guidelines? He's like, what? What do you mean? I was like, well, see, there are certain groups of people that we may not discriminate against. Do you know how many there are? Well, it doesn't matter. He didn't know how many there are. Now, if he would have said 7, I'd be like, oh, great, what are they? And if he would have known them all, then I would have said, well, how many of them are there for our state specifically? How many of them are there for that city specifically? See, don't go there. Don't get your owners involved in this stuff. My friends, I hope that's helpful. If you want more information on how to put these things in place, if you want to see how we screen our folks, we've got our stuff on our website, pmbuild.com. Jump on there. I hope this is helpful to you as you make sure that you're the professional, do the job that you were hired to do.